It says, you are Peter, and the Greek is Petros. And on this rock, the Greek is Petra, I will build my church. It has often been suggested that Peter is the foundation of the church. I'd have to say, if it were so, it would be a very wobbly building. Because a little later, Jesus rebuked him, said, get behind me, Satan. Later still, he denied the Lord 3 times. And even after the resurrection, Paul had to rebuke him for compromising with the truth of the gospel for fear of his fellow Jews. So I'm just grateful that the church is not built on Peter, nor am I. And what is actually emerges from this passage, which is very clear in the Greek Testament, which is the original version that we have, you are Peter, Petros, and on this rock, Petra, I will build my church. Now, Petros in Greek means a stone, or at the most a boulder. Nothing bigger than that. Normally it would be the kind of stone that people would take up to stone someone with. On the other hand, Petra means a jagged rock that extends from the bedrock.
May God or Jesus kill me if I am wrong of correcting this man. It is indeed true that Peter, who was Simon, is the foundation of the church, as was so clear. Jesus called Simon, and Jesus saying that Simon is Peter, which means rock. Then so Simon now called to be rock, for Jesus made Simon as rock. So when Jesus said, and on this rock I will build my church, it means, to the rock the church was built, as the rock is Simon now called to be rock. So as this means, unto you Simon I will build my church. That is why it is only to Peter the keys of heaven was given, not to any other else. Jesus said keys not key, as this means of infinite things, as this is referring to what was already said by God in Old Testament, that the high priest is to heal everything related to the Lord, as this was also repeated by Paul. And then when Jesus was about to ascend, before he ascended he told again Peter, that Peter must take care and feed Jesus' sheep or children, which means Jesus made Simon that he made Rob to be a shepherd. So what is to be doubted? Jesus built the church and made him as a foundation of the church, as church means the wholeness of the children or believers of God. Is it not the one to deal everything related to the Lord, not a foundation of the church? So if Jesus made Peter to be in his positions that he is in this earth as rock and shepherd, and high priest, how could it be that Peter is not the vicar of Jesus, as this is indeed related to what Jesus had said, to sitting his left and right is not for Jesus to decide, but it is the Father. For the Father appointed the man Jesus to sit in his right, and is the word that God the Christ is the Father himself, as what the Christ had said, I am the Father. If you will not believe me that I am the Father, you will die in your sin. So as to mean the high priest is the one being seated in the left of the Father, which is also that Christ. That is why no doubt that Peter is the vicar of Jesus, or that sit in the Father and or Christ left. When Jesus rebuked Peter calling Peter of Satan, Jesus knows it is unintentional wrongdoing of Peter, because of Peter loves to Jesus. Jesus just called Peter of Satan, for anyone who commits wrong, whether intentional or unintentional, is of being demon, as was written, anyone who commits wrong is of demon. And when Peter denied Jesus, it is not that he disowned Jesus as Lord and as God. Jesus knows the different message of this too that he spoke in Matthew 10 verse 33, Matthew 26 verse 34. Jesus is not stupid that if what he spoken to Peter about Matthew 26 verse 34 is also about Matthew 10 verse 33. Jesus knows the difference between what was spoken and what was in heart. And in Galatians 2 verses 11 to 12, when Paul rebuked Peter in front of the others, that is against God, Paul himself violated his teachers of not disrespecting elder. Paul just ignoring or denying the fact that Peter was just alarmed by him, Paul, for Peter knows this could reach Paul, as Peter knows the character of Paul. As to be asked why Paul spoke in his Galatians 2 verses 7 to 8, if it is Jesus himself who appointed Peter for all the earth to make followers of God and Jesus, so why Paul said Peter is for the circumcised. The fact Peter warned the peoples of the earth to be careful of the writings of Paul, as numerous may lead to destruction. This man in black's teachings is dangerous to the peoples of the earth at all time. He destroyed the teachings of Jesus and the anointment of Jesus to Peter as his vicar. He read the writings, but he couldn't understand, for as Jesus said, the knowledge of the secret of the kingdom of heaven was given to those who were been given it. That is why it is impossible that it will be given to those who rejected the RCC, the existing Church of God in Jesus. For as Jesus said, what God had opened nothing can shut. So there's indeed existing church, existing ministry, existing leaders and teachers, and existing doctrine. Such words has many meanings, so don't introduce other meaning than what is really the right meaning being meant for, that is such demonic acts. Many of false preachers doing that.